From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. As power in Venezuela continues to be restored, certain areas have reported fresh outages early on Wednesday. But the government says this is a normal part of the stabilization process. Authorities say that a full and stable restoration of electricity will be achieved progressively. Meanwhile, the public prosecutor's office has said an investigation was opened to find out who's behind the newest attack. On Monday, both a new cyber attack and physical sabotage on the country's main hydroelectric plant led to countrywide power outages.
Venezuelans faced two new attacks on their electrical systems on Monday, March 25th. The first, at midday, revealed to have been an electromagnetic attack, was brought under control by the authorities over the course of the afternoon.
The first event, with similar characteristics to that perpetrated on March 7th, occurred on Monday at 1:29 p.m. and caused a loss of charge, which was rapidly recovered by workers. And through the coordination of the Bolivarian government with Corpo Elec, recovery was efficient, and from 7 p.m. onward, the system was working at peak performance.
But then, at 10 o'clock at night, a second power cut occurred, which went on for more than 12 hours and forced the country to suspend classes and most work activities on Tuesday the 26th. This was after a blaze was started, where transformers at the Guri Dam are located.
At 9:47 p.m. on Monday, March 25th, criminals set a huge fire in the transformer area at Guri, which affected 3 transformers at the station, as well as the wiring, which allows transmission.
Despite the magnitude of the attack, contingency plans went into action quickly. The power outage meant that the subway was out of service, but a provisional bus system ensured commuting around Caracas continued.
We should get used to it, because the opposition are already asking for a military intervention and war. What's happening now is just as bad as war. Not having electricity, water, transport, or food. It may be worse.
They are not causing harm to just one person. We are all Venezuelans. If they care about us, even a little bit, they wouldn't do this.
On the other hand, Simón Bolívar International Airport functioned as normal thanks to a generator. Health authorities said medical care was not threatened by the interruption in the power supply, and water in hospitals was guaranteed by tankers nonetheless. The military is now reinforcing the country's power grid.
The Bolivarian armed forces have been deployed here. We're not going to get tired. We have the will to overcome, to go past any enemy of the country. Our president ordered us to ensure that the electricity system functions, and we will do so.
At around midday, electricity began to return, but in an unstable manner, with partial cuts throughout the afternoon. Still, the people are ready for new attacks.
I have a battery-powered radio, candles, and a flashlight. But will this continue? I hope not, because this is a problem for everyone.
The Venezuelan Public Ministry has started a criminal investigation into those responsible for the fire at the plant. Meanwhile, school and work remain suspended for Wednesday.
Indigenous demonstrators in Colombia have blocked the border bridge which connects the country to Ecuador to demand respect for their rights. Indigenous, Campesino, and Afro-Colombian citizens have started a 17th day of protests calling on the government of Iván Duque to respect agreements about their rights and lands reached back in 2013. These protests, called Aminga, were violently repressed by the police, who used live ammunition on protesters. Still in Colombia, armed groups are forcing thousands of families to leave several villages in Antioquia and Córdoba. This according to human rights defender Andrés Chica. He says the armed groups are seizing lands to use them for drug trafficking. Some of the families have arrived at a humanitarian camp, but some are being held by the criminals. Campesinos are demanding that humanitarian organizations like the International Red Cross assist those forced to flee. And this is what Chica had to say about this
Yesterday, while they were going down the sidewalks near Rio Sucio, they were detained by a clan of Golfo members, which thought some of them had been part of the FARC. And now they recognize themselves as the new Front 18. So now we have a much more difficult scenario. For the people who have been expelled by criminal actors, they have to travel 2 hours by mule. And there they have other criminals that advise them not to leave those territories. And by contrast, there is the invisibility, or the almost null presence of military forces to reestablish order and freedom in this region of the country.
A debate was held on Monday in Colombia's Congress over the political control of the peace agreements and how their implementation can move forward. Many feel that the government of Duque is deliberately ignoring these discussions in the hopes of putting an end to the agreements.
During a debate over the implementation of the peace agreements, Senator Iván Cepeda announced that he will formally accuse the President and the Attorney General for not complying with the peace agreements.
I have interjected in front of the Investigative Commission and the lower house. It may be symbolic, but I have accused the President and the AG of violating the Constitution.
The debate went on without the presence of officials who must carry out the implementation of the peace agreements, like Miguel Ceballos, Commissioner of Peace, and Emilio Artilla, Commissioner of Post-Conflict Issues, among others.
We have complained to the public prosecutor about the actions of Mr. Emilio José Archila and other ministers who failed to come to this meeting with absolutely no excuse.
Many feel that peace has not been given the importance it deserves during the 7 months of Iván Duque's government. He has not even met with the Congress Commission for Peace.
We have even asked foreign diplomats to please ask the President to speak with us. But the President has not even considered giving us a meeting. He has not even answered our...
Paraguayan police have stopped an indigenous and campesino mobilization in the capital of the country. The organizations began to rally around Asunción to demand that the government return expropriated lands and respect their rights. But the police reportedly told them they are not authorized to mobilize due to a controversial law that limits the rights of demonstration. Uruguay's ruling party has launched its presidential campaign as general elections near. During an event in the city of Paysandú, the Frente Amplio party introduced their 4 candidates for primary elections in June. The favorite of 4 is Daniel Martínez, the current mayor of Montevideo. The party hopes their candidate can win a 4th consecutive term in office. Presidential and legislative elections will take place on October 27th. Brazilians have reacted to President Jair Bolsonaro's order that the armed forces commemorate the military coup that took place in March 1964. Just as people on the streets are upset about the decision, so are many lawmakers from progressive parties. Bolsonaro, a former army captain, has strongly supported the Brazilian military and has even said that he does not consider the start of the dictatorship to have been a coup. The military dictatorship overthrew President João Goulart and ruled the country for over 2 decades, until 1985.
Unfortunately, Brazil has continuously been ashamed in front of the international eyes, either by interventionist policies or by celebrating a time that no country in Latin America, including Chile, that lived through the regime of Pinochet for so long. But it seems Bolsonaro wants this to come back.
I think Bolsonaro should be ashamed to ask this nation that has suffered so to commemorate what happened in 1964. Bolsonaro is ashamed for this country. The people that voted for him must be very ashamed.
It shouldn't be celebrated in any way, but the population in a certain way made it happen. The population voted for him.
Another group of thousands of migrants from Central America, the Caribbean and Africa are hoping to reach the U.S. border. Social organizations have criticized the authorities of Chiapas in Mexico for reportedly preventing migrant women and children from entering cities to stock up on supplies. A number of migrant caravans have tried to reach the United States since last year, despite President Donald Trump's hardline policies.
We need some support. Please, we are hot, we are hungry, we are thirsty. We need water, medicine. Please, please help us move. The sun is too much for the children. From the bottom of our hearts, to the people of Mexico, we appreciate the support you have given us, but please help us.
More stories coming up. We'll be back.
From here to beyond the south. From here to the Caribbean or further north. Where can I see news connecting the whole south? From Washington. From Mexico. From Caracas. From Quito. From Havana. You can always see the news from a new vision, connecting the global south, only on Del Sur.
Welcome back. 5 cholera cases have been confirmed in Mozambique following the devastation left by Cyclone Idai. Health workers are battling 2,700 cases of acute diarrhea, which could be a symptom of cholera. A cholera treatment center has been set up at Beira Hospital. The death toll in Mozambique has reached 468.
Around 100 to 200 people were expected today with severe diarrhea. Therefore, all the team are in the field, working in the communities, and well prepared in the local for assisting patients in Makurungo. Of course, we'll spread at that moment. We'll spread because cholera is an epidemic situation. You see, when you have one case, you have to expect that you will have more cases in the community. Therefore, the health workers are there in the communities, work hard with communities, how to organize them, how to prevent, how to treat water and everything to prevent the spread of the cholera. And apart of that, we organize a place to admit and to assist the patients who are coming in severe conditions. We have a place where people should go to be treated.
And the city of Beira has started making progress in restoration efforts. The power supply for hospitals and other public services has been restored. Workers are repairing buildings and clearing uprooted trees. 90% of the downtown area was destroyed after being hit by Cyclone Idai on March 14th. Meanwhile, the Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel announced on Tuesday that the country sent a field hospital, doctors, and medicine to Mozambique to provide aid for victims. Burundi has released the schoolgirls who were detained for scribbling on the president's picture in their textbooks. The justice minister has urged parents to remind their children that the age of criminal responsibility is 15 and to respect authorities. A social media campaign using the hashtag #FreeOurGirls was being used to demand their release. Aged 15, 16, and 17, the girls were detained for 2 weeks. The Comoros Electoral Commission has declared current President Azali Assoumani the winner of Sunday's presidential election. Assoumani was re-elected by a landslide with 60% of the vote, and he has called for peace after the opposition said the election was flawed. Authorities violently broke up an opposition protest on Monday. 12 people were injured after police fired tear gas and rubber bullets.
It's true that there were mistakes, but we consider ourselves happy because it could have been a lot more serious. So we congratulate ourselves. We thank God and the Comorian people. But as I said, it is the easiest part that has been done. Now it is the most difficult. It is the construction of the country. And I need everyone to come together to move forward.
Ethiopian Airlines has been named the African Champion of the Year at a business award event in Rwanda. The airline was hailed for implementing an impressive expansion strategy that has enabled it to reach over 50 countries across the globe. The airline's CEO thanked Africans all over the continent who have demonstrated their solidarity with the company following the tragic March 10th plane crash. Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have pledged to end the conflict between the two countries and work together for peace. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame made the announcement at the ongoing Africa CEO Forum in Kigali. The two neighbors have had a fractious relationship since the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Last year, heavy fighting broke out between the Rwandan and the Congolese military in troubled Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo after an incursion by Rwandan troops.
We will not move towards an escalation of violence between our two countries. In any case, the Democratic Republic of Congo is there. It offers its assistance in the event of certain difficulties that we could eventually overcome, because our vision is to build bridges between us and not walls.
If we can't work together as brothers, sisters, as friends, we can decide to give each other peace and forget about what we have to do together, but above all, avoid quarrels that may just be destructive.
The United Nations has sent a team to Mali in response to the brutal massacre that occurred over the weekend. 10 human rights officers, a child protection officer, and 2 crime scene investigators were sent to the Mopti region to investigate Saturday's attack. The UN Rights Office said the massacre of more than 150 people this weekend marks a significant surge in killings.
The attack in Ogusagu in the Mopti region in central Mali is the latest in a series of assaults and a cycle of violence that has resulted in some 600 deaths of women, children and men, as well as thousands of displaced people since March 2018. So 600 people have been killed in a year over the past 12 months in the Mopti region alone.
More CARICOM heads of government are criticizing the decision of 5 Caribbean leaders to hold talks with the U.S. president. Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown has called his Caribbean counterparts who attended the meeting weak-minded. In a Facebook post, Brown said they allowed themselves to be treated like servants. He said CARICOM must continue its position by standing on principle without inducement or fear of reprisals. Brown's comments follow St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves' criticism of Jamaica, the Bahamas, Haiti, St. Lucia and the Dominican Republic. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Brown has reiterated CARICOM's non-intervention policy on Venezuela.
That if it wasn't for the strong position of CARICOM to stand in principle, the principles of non-interference, non-intervention, respecting the sovereignty of states, I guarantee you military action would have been taken in Venezuela already, and there would have been dire consequences for Caribbean people.
Authorities in Jamaica have clamped down on illicit fuel operations in communities near Petrojam. While the authorities did not find illegal connections to Petrojam's 23 underwater pipelines, they discovered other illegal fuel operations on land.
But they also, Mr. Speaker, with the police, conducted various operations in and around the communities around Petrojam. And they have discovered and dismantled various illegal fuel operations. So, Mr. Speaker, we have taken these actions.
We're taking one last break, but stay with us.
The life is full of moments. Moments of fight. Moments of hope. Moments that transcend. Moments that you can live in. Telesur documentaries. Sundays. Only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The army chief in Algeria has called for the presidency to be vacated. Lieutenant General Gaed Salah says the people's demands regarding President Abdelaziz Bouteflika are valid. This follows a month of mass protests against the president. The veteran UN diplomat Lakhdar Brahimi is said to lead talks on Algeria's political future. And to know more on the situation in Algeria, we're joined on the phone by journalist and political analyst Hafsa Kara-Mustafa. Hello Hafsa, thank you for joining us.
Hi.
So tell us, what does this army chief's statement mean for President Bouteflika?
Well, it essentially means that the army has now sided with the protesters and has recognized that Bouteflika's time in office should come to an end. It also means that the army, which is an incredibly important power player in Algerian politics, has actually stepped in to avoid an escalation. So this is a major turning point. And of course, it all comes to the point where what happens next. This is an important decision that should appeal to a majority of protesters. However, sadly, at this moment, there is still encouragement coming from social media, essentially, to say that the struggle has to continue and the protests must continue. But this is a decision that should bring about a suitable compromise for both sides of what essentially is becoming an emerging conflict between mass population and the ruling authorities.
So what has been the reaction on the streets? We've seen pictures and videos of large masses on the streets celebrating that he wasn't going to announce his re-election.
Well, exactly. I mean, now it's becoming mixed because the original protests were about opposing a fifth term in office for Bouteflika. And then as each declaration came forward from Bouteflika or his team, protesters sort of shifted the goalpost. So after he recognized that he should no longer run for a fifth term and that he wouldn't, then protesters decided, well, that wasn't enough, because then it was the entire system that had to go. And so the longer these protests keep going, the more the goalposts are shifting completely, and we're sort of starting to tread into very difficult, borderline dangerous ground. In reaction to this decision, it's been a very mixed and almost there's a 50-50 split. For those who think that, yes, this indeed is a good decision because it will bring about a return to stability and offers a way out of the crisis, whereas there are others who think, well, this is just a political trick to maintain the same system of governance, and therefore there needs to be an ongoing protest every Friday from now on. So the public opinion is now split 50-50, and it really will depend on what happens Friday, because that's when protests take place every Friday. Depending on the size of the crowd and what types of slogan, will the situation become slightly clearer.
And so if Bouteflika is removed from power, if they choose to use Article 102 to declare him unfit to rule because of a medical condition, who can take control of the country?
Well, according to the Constitution, it's very clear it would be the head of Parliament, who will take over for the following 45 days. It would become an interim president, and then it will set the stage to organize elections from which all parties and all sides can have a candidate. So essentially, if this article is put in place and Bouteflika is removed from power, the Constitution is very much equipped to ensure the transitional period. That wouldn't be a problem. The only problem, of course, would be if protesters are happy with this option. And sadly, we're already seeing emerging through social media people who are saying, well, they don't want this transition because this transition only extends the current system's lifespan. And that's what they don't want to see.
Thank you very much for your time, Hafsa. That was Algerian journalist and political analyst Hafsa Kara-Mustafa. Now we go to other stories. 7 people, including 4 children, have been killed after a missile hit a Yemeni hospital. Just one day after thousands rallied to mark 4 years since the civil war started. 8 more people were wounded in the strike near the entrance of a rural hospital. Health workers were among those killed. Tens of thousands have died during the war between the Saudi-led coalition and Houthi rebels, which has also led to mass starvation and the outbreak of deadly diseases. Several Thailand opposition parties have formed a coalition vowing to end the military junta's rule. 7 opposition parties, led by the Pheu Thai party, said they have won enough parliamentary seats to form a government. The parties have vowed to thwart the military-backed ruling Phalang Pracharat party. Thai politics reached a deadlock following Sunday's elections after the main 2 parties claimed the right to govern. Official results are yet to be released. And with that, we come to the end of this news brief. But as you know, you can read more on our website by going to telesurenglish.net. And you can also join us on social media, since we're on Facebook, Twitter, and also Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.